All right, this is a supplemental training guide that I want you guys to use as an example for what you should be doing once you start receiving Medicare reimbursement. This is going to set up some if-then scenarios for you guys so you can understand how to pull the information you need out of a Medicare EOB, which is an explanation of benefit, or an ERA, which is an electronic remittance advice. So let me show you what I'd be doing. This is what we do the beginning of every year. So this is a claim that has been processed in 2020. You can see this was April 20th, 2020. This was a 4-unit therapeutic exercise reimbursement from Ohio Medicare. So basically what I'd be doing is I would take a look at the charged amount, which was $160. I'd take a look at the reimbursement from the primary, the contract adjustment, the sequestration reduction, and actually this one, I wasn't looking at the reason codes. The bottom one is the contract adjustment. So this is MPPR. This is sequestration. This is contract adjustment. This is primary payment. This was charged. Now we have secondary and patient balance, if any. So right now we've got 2020 going to the secondary, and we're going to say 0 for the patient. So I'm going to throw a $ on all of this. Now, this could be a screenshot from Therabill. It could be a screenshot from PracticeMate. It could be a screenshot from HelloNote. Any billing software you're using, this would be a screenshot straight from there. Now, let's take a look here at what we've got for percentages. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. Let's jump into actually the Medicare fee schedule. Let's go into, guys, I have a whole video on how to use the physician fee schedule lookup tool. Just published that the other day, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm going to go super quick here. We're using just one code. We always choose all modifiers. Whoops. And I am choosing Ohio, not Kentucky. All right. And so the allowed amount is 3021. So let's jump back over here. I'm going to come down. I'll put it here. 3021 allowed. We're going to do 97110 times 4 just to indicate there's 4 units we build. So I'll put that right up here. Okay. So if this is the allowed amount, right? In theory, what we'd be looking at is equals that times 4. That is 4 unit multiple. So in theory, we'd be collecting $120.84. In reality, we're collecting the primary plus the secondary after reductions, actual collected. So 99.39 for 4 units. So if we want to look at the effect of MPPR, for example, what we can do is we can say, let's take, I think this is how we do it, this divided by this, and we're going to say equals 1 minus this. So that's about 17%. I'm going to make that a percent. And just to do the reverse math, if I take that times that, I'm looking at 21. Yeah. Okay. So I've got it right. So this is total reduction of allowed amount. Now, here is some different billing scenarios. Let's say, for example, and we don't really have it here, we know based on these numbers, we should have collected, let's take a look at this, the full allowed amount minus sequestration for the first unit of therapeutic exercise, right? So if this is the allowed amount, we're going to say, okay, I want this to equal that. That's 1 unit from the allowed amount. If we're going to subtract, math is always a little fuzzy. What I'm trying to figure out is if we're going to take a single unit after the MPPR, which is a reduction, what is that going to look like? I'm going to pause this a second. I'm going to grab a calculator. Okay, I think I've got to figure it out. So this is the actual collected. I need this minus this. That takes 1 unit away. That leaves me with that number. I need that number to be divided by 3. This leaves me with the reimbursement after the effective MPPR. So we're going to say per unit 97110, whoops, after MPPR. Per unit 97110 without MPPR. Okay. That's what we're looking at. So now, if I want to start creating some billing scenarios, I could say, let's take this and say 2 unit visit, Therex only. And what that's going to be this plus this. I can say 3 unit visit. I usually use PV, whoops, as patient visit. So let me use the actual, and then this is Therex only. So that's going to be equals this plus parentheses this times 2. Then obviously 4 unit, it's going to equal this. Now 1, let's do this. Now I'll show you where this gets cool. Okay. So remember, 1 unit does not have an MPPR. So this is going to equal that. This is going to equal that divided by 2. This is going to equal that divided by 3. This is going to equal that divided by 4. When we look at reimbursements, averaging and including the effect of MPPR, you can see how our numbers obviously go down, right? So this accounts for pretty much a 20% reduction. So now what we want to look at is maximum capacity. So let's say that instead of a single unit of Therex for a single patient, we're looking at an hour's worth of time. We know that we need to average 15 minutes across the year, let's say. So if we're looking at an average of 15 minutes, this could be this times 4. This would be 4 patients per hour. This would be that times 2. 2 patients per hour. No. Sorry. This would actually be this times 2 patients per hour. You know, 3 is kind of weird because you're pretty much just stuck. So let's go to this. That's going to be 1 patient per hour. Okay, so this gives you some idea of what we're looking at on a per hour basis. If we wanted to get a little extreme, because remember, we also have, you know, some other minutes we can include in here, and it depends on supplemental time, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But this essentially could be 6 single unit visits per hour. And that's going to equal that times 6. That's looking at 10-minute slots, 6 patients in an hour. You could max out at $181 for therapeutic exercise. You know, if we were to look at, let's switch this over to therapeutic activity. Oops. How many times have I typed this and I still type it wrong? We are looking at 3843 single unit, I'm going to say Therex visits per hour. Let's say 6 single unit Therac visits per hour. Now, I know a lot of you are looking at that and you're like, well, what the heck? Who wants to do that? 43. But I want to expand on this idea just a little bit. So this is dollars. We're going to take this and we're going to say this times 6, okay, per hour. And let's just, you know, let's say 4 single unit, I know I spelled it wrong above, visits per hour. I just want you guys to understand what's available, right? And then how you can build a profit model around it. This equals that times 4. I can't stand that being spelled as unite. Okay. So what can we be looking at here? Let's say, for example, we have 1 PT, and I know we're going to go to salary.com, and we're now, bear with me, guys. So we're going to look at physical therapists, and let's see what we can find. I haven't been to this website in a long time. Individuals, what am I worth? Say physical therapist, Ohio. Okay, let's say Dayton, Ohio. Let's see what we can find. Okay, so median salary about 87,000. So let's just, 95,000. let's go with that as our number. So we're going to say 95,000. That equals, if we're going to say that divided by 49 weeks a year, and we're saying 40 hours a week. What did I just do? So that divided by, no, not times, divided by again. Okay, so let's round it up. Let's just say $50 an hour. We can bring on a PT, even if we make this, let's go with that, and let's say $51 an hour. This is triple the cost of the PT, roughly triple. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? We're looking at 4 single unit therapeutic activity sessions. That's 4 sessions, 15-minute sessions. Does that mean that your patient has to stay in the clinic for 15 minutes? No, heck no, absolutely not. Let's take a typical Medicare beneficiary and let's look at what might be done in an hour's worth of time. So if I did have 4 patients in clinic per hour, and let's say I have, we're going to say an 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8:15, right? They're arriving every 15 minutes, 8:30, 8:45. Okay, so now between 8 and 8:15, the physical therapist is working one-on-one directly with this patient. 1-to-1, 97530. And then that patient, okay, let's do this a little different. I'm going to pull these guys out here just in case I need it. So from 8 to 8:15, one-on-one with the PT. 8:15, 16 to 8:30. Let's say group, or we can say general supervision, Eric's. And maybe this is, you know, to 8:45. Right? Technically, this person can be done. They don't need an hour. This person can be done. What does this look like? Let's take a scenario where, I'm going to grab your attention. Let's see if I can, here we go. Let's take a scenario where we have an individual who has had a total knee replacement and they are, you know, progressing through their program. You've completed an initial evaluation. We don't even have reimbursement on here for the initial eval, but we know, well, shoot, now I've got to do that. We know that the initial eval, let's come in here, 161. The initial eval on a typical session is going to be reimbursed at the full lot amount, $84.17 for a non-facility. There will be a sequestration reduction on that, but that's the only reduction we're going to see. So let's go with, let's put it here. Let me find a place to sneak it in here. Initial eval, 84.16. Okay, so we're going to say 84.16 for the eval plus, let's see, we already determined 2 units. No, we determined per unit after MPPR is 2306. So let's say plus 2 unit Therex after MPPR. That's going to equal that times 2. That's going to equal, and we're not even talking like anything else that might be, not times, plus. Hope you guys are following along. Maybe this is 3. Maybe we do the eval in 3 units, 150. So we are right on par with what we're doing when we're seeing 4 units, 4 single unit sessions. So I'm going to still keep this on average for my single PT reimbursement. 153. That's awesome. That's right where we want to be. So again, if I've got a single PT generating $153 an hour at the low end, at the conservative end, right? What are we looking at? We've got, patient number 1 comes in, 15 minutes of therapeutic activity. Then he is looking at general exercise, going through his program. He's doing his stretching, he's doing his self-massage, he's doing his whatever. If you use machines, he's doing his machine work. Whatever you do, like every clinician is going to have their own kind of preference. And so you're going to pick whatever it is that the patient can do safely, independently, and just needs to do. That 45 minutes could be 10 minutes on a recumbent bike, progressing to an elliptical trainer or a treadmill. That could be another 10 minutes worth of mobility work, right? Ankle, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, mobility, obviously knee range of motion, hip mobility, maybe some trunk work, and then we can get into some strengthening, right? So for me, I'm a huge fan of my patients who have had a knee replacement doing stuff like a version of a deadlift, a version of a sit-to-stand / squat, single leg stuff. And then we're gonna, in the therapeutic activity portion, that's where the therapist is working directly with the patient. So maybe that's where we're doing single limb balance, coordination, proprioceptive training, stuff that the patient isn't really safe to do independently or alone. You can include a component of manual therapy in with the therapeutic activity. So I might do some manual therapy on the knee and integrate that within the proprioceptive training. I'm still going to bill either neuro re-ed or therapeutic activity. So I usually will include like sit to stand, lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling as part of my knee rehab. And I might use manual therapy techniques interspersed with the functional activities. But nonetheless, I think as a PT, if I have for my kind of care, if I have a 15-minute block of time, I can do a 15-minute treatment with documentation, especially after I have evaluated that patient. Now, if we're looking at averaging $153, the cost of the therapist is about $50. The therapist is coming out $100,000 a year. Technically, this is all one-on-one care. Like, keep that in mind. Although you're looking at 4 patient interactions an hour, it's one-on-one care with each of those patients. This, if I had, in theory, perfect world, which doesn't exist, let's take a reasonable amount of time. And this is where you start to see the profit margins erode. So in an ideal world, right, I'm paying the therapist for 40 hours. The therapist is working 49 weeks out of the year, and they're generating, I'm going to go with the lower of the 2 numbers. I'm just going to go with, I'm going to say $150 an hour. Okay, so that's going to equal that times that times that. In an amazing world, we're looking at close to $300,000 a year. 100 of that is going to the therapist. That's a perfect scenario. It's never going to happen. So let's say we have a therapist that's doing 35 hours of how do I do this? Production, but getting paid for full time. We're still looking at this. Whoops, I'm going to drag that formula down. Now we're getting a little closer. I would say the reality is you're paying your therapist for 40 hours. They have 30 hours of productive time, but still you're looking at $220,000. If I use that as my number and I want to subtract out 100,000, so what am I left with? I'm left, let's go minus equals this minus this, left with 120,000. If I say after, actually let me do this, PT salary, it's going to be, this will equal this, and then we've got admin salary, and let's just roughly say we're paying an admin 45,000 a year. That's going to leave me, then we have overhead, which that's kind of a tough one to try and estimate. Let's say we're looking at 4,500 times 12, 54,000. That leaves us with this minus parentheses, this plus this plus this. I meant for that to be here. Let me see if I can just copy that formula. Okay. So, where are my lines? Here we go. Basically what we're looking at here, I'm going to make those red. I'm going to make this one green and bold. That's hard to see. Let's make it a little darker. Okay. So here are the numbers we're looking at the end of the day. And I think these are pretty realistic. You know, if you go with perfect world, this would be $91,000. The real world is you're paying for about 75% efficiency. You know, now again, remember, this is a one-on-one scenario. This is one therapist, one admin. We're looking at 54,000 in overhead. Maybe that's not, maybe you don't have overhead. Well, I don't know why you wouldn't, but so there's lots of variability in these numbers, but this is a real life case scenario. Now, you're probably also looking at this and saying, well, what the heck? How am I going to get 4 Medicare beneficiaries an hour? What does that mean on total caseload? I'm going to save that for a new video. Guys, we'll do the numbers on the volume of patients. And, you know, again, we're going to look at margins here. So this is assuming a 45-minute session per Medicare beneficiary. Maybe they only want 30 minutes. You still have one-on-one 15 minutes. If you're doing every 30 minutes, which I think you can easily do, I think that's a great marketing position to say, look, if you don't want to spend 60 minutes in a clinic, come for 30. We do one-on-one for 15 minutes. You do the work you need to do, general supervision for 15 minutes, you're done. You could do 3 days a week. You could do 5 days a week, right? Think about this. If a normal Medicare beneficiary, I'm going to grab your attention before I wrap this up. If a normal Medicare beneficiary is out there in a clinic for 4 units, this would be a smaller private practice clinic. The commercial clinics are doing 2 units or less, but let's just say on average, small private practice, Medicare beneficiaries in there for 4 units for an hour, right? Um, your what makes you a purple cow in Seth Godin's terms is that unique value proposition. Say, look, you don't have to come 3 days a week for an hour. Come 3 days a week for 30 minutes. Come 5 days a week for 30 minutes. If I did 5 days a week, single unit sessions, that's 5 units. If I had a typical outpatient private practice doing 2 days a week, 4 units per visit, that's 8 units. I'm already saving Medicare 3 units, but the patient's coming to my clinic 5 days a week. We bathe every day. We eat every day. These patients need to be working out every single day. Like, there is absolute benefit to that kind of consistency. I think you can more than easily make a case for it. So guys, like, I want you to think outside the box. Just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it should continue to go that way. So here we go. I'm wrapping it up. If this brought value today, please let me know. I would appreciate comments under the YouTube video. Comments on YouTube go a long way in helping me improve engagement, helping me grow the channel, helping me produce more of this kind of content for you. And if you guys have any interest in this stuff, this is phase 2 of my Medicare billing course. So in phase 1, I teach my students how to bill Medicare, what to do, how to document, all that stuff. In phase 2, we look at different real life scenarios to figure out what your Medicare practice is actually going to look like and how you can build your practice to both help the patients that need your help the most, do and become the therapist that you want to be, and build a business that's going to give you long-term financial security. All right, guys, I'm wrapping it up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next video.